Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the English Fluency Guide, and it's a great pleasure to see you in another video. Today we're going to be talking about psychology, how you think, and how that affects your fluency training to become a confident speaker. Should be an interesting video. Hope you like it. And if you have more questions or comments, please let me know down in the comments so we can keep the conversation going. Very briefly, if you're new to the channel, I talk about usually 4 things about language learning on the channel. The top one, you're going to have words and phrases dealing with particular topics. So going fishing or going to the doctor, what vocabulary to use for that. A little bit more down, this is almost like a tree here, but the fundamental things about language learning like pronunciation and grammar here, because those things affect all of these other ones. You also have more further down particular learning strategies. So you learn what's important to learn, why you should be learning it, what are faster ways to learn. And even lower down, the most fundamental and most important is your psychology. So how you think. A lot of channels on YouTube and just lessons in general usually focus more on these 2 things up here, but I like to cover these a lot more just because those are more important. And if you focus on these and get them right, all of this stuff becomes much easier. So this video is almost a response. In my previous video on the channel where I was interviewed by a local Japanese radio show, I got a comment on that video saying the person was a little bit offended because I used the word America to say what country I'm from. Now, especially out here in Japan, people use the word America instead of the United States of America to describe where people are from. So if I say, oh, I'm from America, they know I'm talking about the U.S. and not Brazil or Bolivia or Mexico, even though those places are in North America. Excuse me, so the North American continent or the South American continent. So I can see how a person might say, oh, I'm offended by that. Why are you saying you're from America and not specifically the United States? Well, there are kind of 2 reasons for this. The first one is that it's just faster to say. The second reason is because other people understand what I'm talking about when I say that idea. Often language is a living thing and people will change like a word or something to make it faster, easier to say. This is why people get nicknames, or why you might take a product like a cotton swab. These are the little things that you clean your ears with. That's the regular name for the product, a cotton swab. But the popular brand name for that, at least in the United States, is the Q-tip. And so people will, for any kind of cotton swab, they might just say, can I have a Q-tip, or pass me a Q-tip? And people understand what you're talking about. So it's a conversational shorthand, again, just a way of being able to express what you want to say much faster, and people understand what you're talking about. But this video isn't really arguing that it's correct or incorrect to say something like that, but I want to make a different point about the idea of telling someone that you're offended by some language that you're using. Now, if I want to make this incredibly simple, imagine if we have kind of 2 people here. We're going to draw this person, make sure you can see that. All right. So we're going to have person 1 and person 2. Person 1, may think that something saying America describing the United States is an offensive thing to say. Again, this is not about right or wrong. This is just thinking about this person here. This other person over here does not really care if America is, describing a country name or not. But there are 2 different ways of kind of these 2 people thinking, and this becomes really important for fluency for one big reason. And that one is that fluency is a skill. It can't be bought. You can't take it from someone. It can't be given to you. It can't be stolen from anyone. It's a skill that you develop. And to develop a skill, you need to be really more like, what's a better way of kind of drawing this? But like, thinking about yourself as like moving out into the world and affecting the world around you. I'll just kind of draw it. I think I got my people reversed over here. But this person here, I'm going to reverse them now because I drew all these arrows over here. But let's say this person is the one who does not get offended by saying the United States is America, and this person does. So this person is affecting their world, and that's kind of another way of saying that if other things happen to them, they are not affected by that. And this other person over here is doing the opposite. They're kind of living according to what other people do to them. And the reason this is a more powerful strategy just in life and for language learning, as I just mentioned, is because it's a skill that you have to develop. You can't get fluency from somebody else, and so you don't want to develop a mindset that's saying other people can offend me by what they say. I want to make this really important because I think in my entire life, I have never once thought or said to someone, that word that you use to me is offensive. And there are a number of reasons for this, but probably the most important one is this idea right here. So if I think that someone says something and that offends me, that means that that other person or some, whatever a person is changing my behavior instead of me deciding how I respond to a particular thing. Again, this video is not about whether it's correct or incorrect or really offensive or not, to have a call a country like the United States America. It's more about encouraging people, if you do have that kind of view, to think about why it might be helpful to not have that point of view. So this is, again, it's a tricky idea, but the people who become fluent are the people who affect their world rather than letting the world affect them. It's a very simple idea, but it's profoundly important. And again, you can see this like in an example, something like, I'm offended by that. Like if someone tells me they're offended by something I say, okay, well, I understand, well, there's not much I can really do to affect that person's behavior, but they're trying to change the way I do something so that they can feel better about, a particular situation or whatever. But even if I say, okay, I'm sorry, I understand, like that might be offensive to you, and I'm going to apologize for that. I don't know that really helps that person become better or more able to affect change around them, other than being able to do things to other people. So it's hopefully this is not too confusing, but when you think about other people controlling you, or you trying to control other people, even if a person says that they are offended by, someone saying that the United States is called America, if you're offended by that and you get that other person to change their view or to apologize, that doesn't really help you. You're trying to control another person based on the way you feel, but fluency, again, doesn't matter how many other people you can control. You're still not going to improve your own fluency. So you might be able to maybe get, something from people, but as far as skill development goes, you really need to think about how do I move out into the world and control the world rather than having the world control me. So hopefully this is not a confusing idea. I didn't want to write a long thing about this. I just thought it was an interesting topic. Again, I can see why someone might think, well, I'm also in the continents of America, North America and South America. But again, this is just talking about conversationally, and when people often develop a shortened term for something like that, lots of people are going to use it. And instead of feeling offended by that, you might just think, okay, well, I understand other people will do that. And without accepting that, you might just think, okay, let me develop in such a way that I'm not worried about what other people are doing to me for my own development. Does that make sense? So hopefully, I know sometimes I'll make videos like this where I'm not just teaching you a bunch of vocabulary, but these videos really are important. They're what help, develop me for my own learning. I don't wait for other people to teach me anything. I don't wait for other people to tell me what to do. I go out into the world and I determine what I'm going to think or what I feel about something. People could say hateful things to me. Part of being a person making videos on YouTube is you're going to get hate sometimes. It happens. And it can be really, really harsh for a lot of people. But for me, I just think, okay, well, if people have a good criticism of what I'm doing or they disagree with something, that's great. If you've got some arguments and you have an idea about how to make it better, I'm here to get better. But again, I'm not going to sit and cry about other people if they say something and I feel offended by that. So that's why ever since I was very young, I think I never really worried about that, even though every day you have the opportunity to feel offended or to feel, like you don't like certain language or something like that. But hopefully this makes sense. I don't want to go on too long about that, but this idea of you controlling how you feel, it's really important. And it's hard if sometimes you're going to be like this person and sometimes you're going to be like that person. That's really tricky to do. So I might think, well, okay, I'm going to not be offended by this, but I will be offended by someone using a country name in a way that I don't like. So you have to, you could do this, but it's much more difficult. It's a lot easier to just pick one and stay with that. Because again, it's going to affect other aspects of your life, how you learn, how you think, your mental health. I'm basically happy most of the time, pretty much all the time, really, because I don't worry or wait for other people to tell me how to feel or wait for something outside of myself or my situation or something like that to determine how I feel. And this is especially important if you're, again, learning a second language. You will encounter people who will laugh at you for how you speak. And it's going to happen. My own family will laugh at me sometimes. So I will say something and, my wife or my mother-in-law or somebody, in my immediate family will laugh at me. And it's okay. I just think okay, I learned something. So I can be offended by that, or I can think, maybe that's an opportunity to learn something. So hopefully this video is not offensive to people, but we'll see. If you are the kind of person who can take some advice and think, that's interesting, maybe I can think about that in a different way, then you will most certainly improve from that. But if you are waiting for other people to do what you want them to do, when it comes to something that you must develop from within yourself, you're going to be waiting for a long time. All right, well, hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions or comments below, let me know. It should be an interesting video. We'll see. Maybe it won't get so many views. I have no idea. But hopefully you found it interesting. So do like this video if you do find it interesting, and post a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And if you'd like to continue learning with the English Fluency Guide, you can do these 3 simple things right now. 1. Click on this link to subscribe to my YouTube channel for over 500 free videos. 2. Click on this link to download my #1 ebook guide to fast fluency free. And 3. Click here to watch the most popular video on English fluency here on YouTube.